I'm working with AAT Group as an home flood assessor, and I conduct assessment, on-site flood assessment. I educate homeowners how to reduce the risk of flooding at their homes. Well, I've actually done my diploma and my undergrad in civil engineering, which is very related to everything around the house. I have through my trainings, I have taken actually environmental classes, in particular water and wastewater management. And I have been working with the Home Flood Protection Program since June 2017. We actually did a very good 40 hours online training through webinar, and we also did 40 hours in-class training. Basically, they actually helped us to learn the tools, get more knowledge about the terms that we are using in the tools, and to how actually help homeowners to reduce the flood risks at their homes. I'm actually a people person, and I love to work with people, and I appreciate the fact that I meet these amazing people and educating them educating them, helping them to reduce the flood risks. That's something that a lot of homeowners not aware of it, as simple as grading in their house or having a garden improperly beside their house. It's actually my pleasure to teach them or to educate them how to use that properly. It is a 50-point visual inspection from top to bottom. That being said, I actually start from the roofs, explaining them, making sure that everything is properly done, and then I actually gather their waiver signature as well as study participation signature. And then we go out once everything's done, and I explain them, I set their expectations. We go out and we start, discuss the issues that's around the house, take pictures so they can actually, I can issue it or address it in the report later. And if there is anything that a lot of homeowners, for example, I would say you have to fill the gaps in the foundations. They would ask, what am I going to fill it out with? So those things are very good. I right away actually give them tips that what they can actually fill the gaps with and everything. And then once we are done from outside, we actually go in the basement. It basically the same process. We take pictures, discuss issues. I fill in the system with the questions and their inputs. And then summarize everything. If they have more questions, I can actually address. And at the end of the day, I prepare the report. I send it to quality. Once it actually passed the quality assurance, then I actually send it to homeowners to review. It is a very informative assessment. As I mentioned, a lot of people don't know very simple things that actually it's happening around the house, and it's actually deteriorating their foundations. The water is going towards their house. So it's very informative. We give them unbiased suggestions, which a lot of homeowners actually, that's what they mentioned, that when they hire a contractor, there will be biased inputs somehow, but we actually give them unbiased inputs that what needs to be done to actually, as simple as just filling the gaps, correcting the gradings. So it is it's a very informative, again, it's a very informative approach, and a lot of homeowners appreciate it. It's very important. Many city storms actually cannot handle the changes that actually happened in the cities, their additions and everything. Basically, that cannot handle today's also the rain pattern change. So today's storm, it cannot actually handle it, and they could actually have backup in their houses. Simple information that if they make sure that they have a proper backwater valve, they have a power backup in their sump pump, because if a storm happens and they do not have a power battery, then it actually could fail. The sump pump could actually still do it. It fails, and they could still have some flooding in the houses. I have been in some houses that they were actually located right by the river. And those that actually took some measures, because they had two flooding in the past 5 years, those ones that actually took some measures, for example, as simple as just cleaning their drains, installing a backwater valve, that would actually reduce the risk a lot. I have done roughly about 80 assessments as a part-time assessor, and I have been in Burlington, I have been in Toronto, anywhere in downtown core, North York, Scarborough, and Etobicoke. The most common issues that I actually see in the houses are poor grading. Also, a very bad practice of the way they use the downspouts. Most of houses, their downspouts are disconnected right by the foundation. So they are taking all the rain from the roofs and they are depositing it by the foundations, so which is not good. And educating them is very important. Very important. I believe homeowners should be actively engaged in the assessment. I have, through all my experience, I had only one homeowner that said, I'm busy, can you actually just do it and let me know? But we have to educate the homeowners know that, or we should let them know that if they are actually not participating, just reviewing the report is not as effective as being in the assessment and participating, gathering information while the assessor is on the site. It's very helpful. The other important part for the assessors are that they have to educate themselves thoroughly about each topic that they see in the system, so that they can discuss it properly, and they can talk about things as simple as rain gardens. For example, my homeowners actually had asked me. So what I usually do effectively is I Google more about the topics. For example, I didn't know how the rain garden works. So I Googled it. I watched YouTube videos about this, and I make sure that I'm aware and I'm well aware of the system, how it works, and I can actually discuss it with the homeowner. Well, I'm proud to say that I'm not only aware of the housing market, but I have great foundations in flood assessment. It is a bonus for my clients. I can give them suggestions. I can educate them how they can actually improve their house and flood risks, mitigate flood risks. To be honest, I actually met a lot of people. Most of them, they appreciate the program, the fact that it's actually unbiased. I'm giving them unbiased suggestions. But I met George in one of the homeowner. I met him twice. First, I met him in his father's house when I was doing the assessment. Second time I met him in his own house, he mentioned that he bought and closed his house 2 days after his father's assessment. And he mentioned that he learned about a lot when he attended his father's assessment. He went back to the seller and actually negotiated. He inspected himself quickly, and he got rebates for the problems that were in the house. He was very delighted. He mentioned that had he not met me in his father's house, he wouldn't know the difference between just a simple white dust or efflorescence. So he did mention that he got rebates for that. It is very important. It's difficult to narrow down because people get their information from different sources. So I would suggest actually short clips, informative clips about the home flood protection, short clips in TV channels, in radio, or even actually informative brochures would be actually an effective way to inform them and tell them that there is something like this. You have to take actions and save your home, protect your home before anything happens. Again, I guess it's informing themselves. I've met some homeowners that it says when the actual storm happens, and if once there is a storm or the flooding occur and the water gushing in, they cannot do anything. They cannot stop it. So they have to inform themselves, take actions before anything happens, installing alarms, taking actions in terms of clearing the drains, installing backwater valve, which is a lot of cities subsidize it. It's a good way to actually kind of at least reduce the risk. I actually met two homeowners that they were living in a flood-regulated area, and they had their basement flooded twice for the past 2 years. So these two homeowners, actually, the first flooding were actually major. One of the ladies, she mentioned that she cannot sleep when actually there is a heavy rain. She constantly goes to the basement and makes sure that the water is not actually coming up. But what I have realized is the one who actually took some measures after the first flooding. She actually had the plumber in her house, she installed the backwater valve, she installed alarm. So those things, and when there was another storm in September this year, her house was safe, surprisingly, compared to the neighbors along the street. But the other homeowner that I actually met she had a flooding 5 years ago, but she didn't do anything major. She just renovated the basement, and that's it. This year, again, the same damages again. The one who actually mentioned they actually had the plumbers in her house. She installed backwater valve, so they had flooding, but very little, because it was if we actually go through details and we learn about it more, is when people are living in the flood regulated area, they have the river river water actually gets into the storm. So that causes the backup into the house. So when they actually installed the proper backwater valve, it reduced the risk of flooding. So she didn't have that major flooding in her house, except in the bathroom drain, so a little bit. But everybody else in the street, they actually did have flooding, major flooding. Well, I would say be in their shoes, educate yourselves as much as possible about every topic that you see in the system, and so that in that way, if you actually don't have enough knowledge, you cannot really educate someone else. So educate yourselves and gather as much as information as possible to see how things can be done, how things can be mitigated, fixed, so that you can discuss it with the homeowners and educate them to reduce the risk.